Okay, this is a continuation of the Simplicity teddy bear construction. And we're going to start from where we left off in video number 3. So we use these 4 pattern pieces that make up the head of the teddy bear. This is the cheeks of the teddy bear, or the head side as they call it. This piece is the middle of the head. This is where the nose goes, where the tip of this little tongue piece is. So these two get sewn together. We need to cut 4 of these ear pieces, so just in case, cut 2 that are facing in this direction and cut 2 facing in the opposite direction, and make sure that you transfer all the little circles and marks. This is the back of the head, so you're going to cut one piece this way and cut another piece going in the opposite direction. And the center of the back of the head has these 3 triangles. I highly recommend, and I'm going to repeat this, do not cut out the triangles on your fabric. Just trace them, but do not cut it out. Just keep the cut solid and just have the triangles drawn on there as a guide to how to line up that piece with the corresponding piece, which is the same as this, just the opposite piece. So I'll clarify that later. So you're only using 4 pattern pieces out of the set, and you are going to cut every one of them at least twice. The ears 4 pieces, and this is the only one that you, in the whole pattern set, that you cut only 1 of. So you don't need 2 of these, you just need 1 of those. But always keep your pattern pieces handy just for reference. So in the last video, we sewed the 2 head side pieces right along the line where there was the 2 triangles. Okay, and it's a curved line, and I use the back stitch. And in video 3, I went into great detail about how to sew using the back stitch, and how to tie off with a knot, and how to make a knot using your sewing needle. That's a 1/4 inch seam allowance. It goes in a 1/4 inch from the edge. And now I'm going to show you the next step. We are going to open this up, and when you open it up to the good side, this particular fabric, I switched fabrics, is this kind of slightly furry fabric. So it looks like a bat when you open it up. This is actually the chin, under the chin of the bear. This is the neck hole. We do not want to sew that shut. And what we're going to do now is look at this area right here. And we are going to sew this tongue-shaped piece to that. So I made a mark in the middle of the top and the middle of the bottom. On the pattern piece, it actually did give you a center line. So I did put a little mark at the top and bottom where my center line started and ended. And that's going to be helpful when I take this piece, turn it to the wrong side, that's the side without the design. I'm going to open up the seam here, like open up this fold right here, this seam where I sewed the 2 pieces together, and lay it flat. And then I'm going to have the 2 good sides on in my case it's these 2 furry sides, kind of come together so they're touching, and we're going to have the outside. The bad side is going to be this white side. So I'm going to line up this seam, and I'm going to press that open flat with my fingers and line up that little sewing seam with this little center mark in the middle of this long tongue-shaped piece at the very tippy top of the pointy side. Now I'm going to pin my pieces together, pinning perpendicular to the edge. So that means at a 90-degree angle. So your pin heads are always going to be on the outside edge of your fabric, so it's easy to pull them out. I'm going to line up these 2 triangles. I know that this and this piece don't look like they should line up in any way because the curves are very different looking, but they do. You should line up where they end, the end of this piece and the end of that piece, pin that next. Also, you want to pin the triangles, put the one triangle on top of the other, and that's why it's really important for you to transfer those marks, okay, and transfer them neatly so the triangles are where they should be, okay. And then put a couple more pins in between here and here. You might say, well, they don't really seem to match. Do not worry about that. What you want to do is have the edges line up. Just hold it so that the edges line up and put a pin in. And I've already demonstrated pins go in and then the ends come back out on the same side. Use as many pins as you need to, okay? And if you have like extra fabric, you might need to repin to kind of distribute the fabric a little bit more, a little bit better, so there's no overlapping or gathering of fabric. You don't want that. You don't want like one side to be, you don't want to end up with having more fabric on one side than the other. They should match up perfectly, and they do, because these pattern makers figured out everything. But you are creating basically the muzzle, the front of the face of this bear, you know, where the nose of the bear is, and it should kind of project out, and so it's a very three-dimensional looking face. So this is going to kind of look like a cone once you sew it together. It's one of the most three-dimensional parts of the bear's body. So that's why it's a little bit hard to understand how the face pieces come together, but you will see. Just all that you have to focus on is lining up the edges of the fabric and pinning, and it will come together just fine. It'll be all right. Okay, and then these edges on the ends, you can pin that and then put pins in between, a couple more pins in between. One part shouldn't be sticking out past the other like this when you pin. The corner here should be right on top of the other corner. And also the triangles can be right on top of each other. There we go, that and that and that, double check. And then I'm going to stretch the fabric a little bit. What you want to do is sew the edges accurately and sew a curve right here. You don't want to simplify it to a point, or you're going to have a face that looks like a little fox with a really pointy, beaky kind of nose. And the bear's muzzle area, the nose area, the mouth area should be kind of a little bit more rounded than that. It shouldn't be pointy. Okay. So when you have a complex curve like that, you may need to use more pins. And so this is what it's going to look like right here. And when you flip it inside out, it's going to create like the nose of the bear. But I can't flip it inside out perfectly because of all the long pins in here. So what we're going to do now is we are going to use a back stitch. And we're going to use a back stitch for everything except for at the end when we stitch up the stuffing openings, or the holes that we left open to stuff the bear. We're going to use a ladder stitch, and I will demonstrate that once we get there. But now we are going to stitch from one corner all the way around this curve and then back up this way. Back up this way. You do not sew this at all. You don't sew this end here. You're just going to go around the little curved part of this tongue shape. Okay, so let's go and sew that. And I'm using a peachy pink color that matches my polka dotted furry fabric. You'll notice that there's like little pieces of the fur coming off, but once we finish sewing, all that will be trapped inside this edge that is kind of shedding, and it will stop shedding. So we're going to start over here again, and I'm going to backstitch. And if you need to, and I think it's very helpful, you can draw and copy this 1/4 inch seam allowance every time you need to start up sewing again. So it should go through the middle of these circles. The seam allowance goes underneath the little triangles. Okay, the triangle should not the tip of the triangle should not extend past that. And, if you need to, draw yourself this little guideline so that you don't sew any kind of weird flat areas, and it has to be parallel to this curve here and be the same kind of curve, mimic that curve. Then just draw it. We're going to start sewing our back stitch. We're going to start here, but we are going to start about 1 stitch length, that's about 1/8 of an inch, inboard, because we're doing the back stitch. We're going to sew from the back to the front, and because this is a back stitch, we are going to go back to the right, go to the edge of the fabric, make sure that you are going through both layers of the fabric when you sew, and then with the sewing needle, tip it forward to the left. If you're right-handed, you're sewing from right to left. So since I am doubling up on the thread here, sometimes the thread gets kind of twisted around each other and it gets tangled. Then just use your sewing needle and just kind of pull it and straighten it out. Okay. Don't want to make a knot there. There we go. Don't pull too hard or the fabric will pucker up. So I have a little stitch here now, and I go to where that stitch ended. I insert my needle tip, and then while the needle is still partially in the fabric, it's in the fabric, I'm going to tip my needle forward and go forward so that I go forward 1 stitch length in front of this thread that's coming out of the middle of that space. Okay, if the pins are getting in the way and that's an area you just sewed, you could take it out because it's just going to keep getting stuck on that pin. Go to the next stitch that you just finished, go to where it ended and insert the needle into the same spot, and then come back out past the thread coming out from the back of the piece. And now I just did 3 back stitches. Just keep continuing on and go all the way around. And when you get to the tippy top here, what I did was I kind of opened up these flats and smashed them flat with my hand, just kind of went like that. You're just going to sew right into those flaps so that they lay permanently straight. So you're going to keep on, sewing. Try to make the stitches small, like 1/8 of an inch. 1/16 of an inch would be really good. That's really, really small and strong. And don't use big stitches. If you make big stitches because you get a little lazy, and you want to get the work done, the bear is going to look terrible. You're going to have fabric, the edges kind of sticking out because the gaps between the stitches are going to be too big, and they'll allow the fabric edges to slip through, and you will definitely experience that. So make your stitches really small. Okay, I only have about maybe 2 inches, maybe less of this thread. So once the thread gets shorter or as short as needle, you got a problem. You will not be able to tie off using the needle. So I have enough thread here. I'm just going to go right where the thread is coming out of my work. I'm going to kind of go underneath that thread. I'm going to go and dig underneath at least one layer of fabric so the thread catches, and make a loop like this. So here's a little loop. And what I'm going to do is point the needle into the middle of that loop and pull it. And I already, talked about this. I am making actually a knot with my needle. And I take my thumb and I just push down on the knot so it's right up against the surface of the cloth. I could take these needles out because I've already sewn those areas. And it's good to actually knot that area at least twice in case the knot should come loose. Here's another little loop, and I just put the needle right through that loop, and I push down on that knot to tighten it, pull, and I cut. I don't cut the knot, get too close to the knot, just cut away, a little bit away from the knot and leave a tiny little stubby tail. So I'm going to rethread my needle, okay? And I'm going to talk about threading a needle. I like to use polyester thread. Polyester thread is really strong. It's made out of some sort of polyester, made out of some sort of a plastic fiber. You do need to cut the end of the thread if it's kind of frayed. Give it a nice clean cut with a nice sharp pair of scissors. You might need to put a little spit on the end. You might have to use your front teeth to kind of flatten the end of the thread so that it fits into the eye of your needle. The little hole at the bottom of your sewing needle is called the eye of the needle. And when you pass the thread through, you should bring it all the way down to the bottom. Let the thread be about 15 inches long only. You gather the two ends of your thread and then do a little knot them, and maybe just cut a little stumpy tail on that one. And never put a knot right at the base of your needle, because the knot is basically there to keep the thread from pulling out of the fabric when you start sewing. If you put it right here at the base of the needle, then you're going to have a hard time pulling that needle, and pulling that thread through is going to stop right there. It's going to get caught at the base of the needle. So that is not the correct way to thread a needle. So when I start off again with a new piece of thread, what I do is I just redo, go back about 2 stitches and overlap and go over maybe 2 stitches just so that area is strong and it's reinforced, and it won't open up, or I don't leave a gap there which has no stitch there. So I just go back a little bit and redo an area. Then I'm coming forward. I go right to where the last stitch ended, stick my needle in, tip the needle forward, and continue back stitching. Okay, so I'm going to continue back stitching. And then when I get done this, then the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to sew the ears.